So what he starts to do is a much harder core version. And I've had this call before, I'm going to say on his level 100 times.
Yeah, easily.
Easily 100 times. Now I have this level of call literally on 80% of all calls that I ever talk to. And I'm going to describe some of this stuff. This may be a little bit of a lengthy one, but this guy is the 10% paid. I'm sorry, I'm going to 2 calls a day. So anyway.
Oh yeah, okay. I was trying to remember which guy
who
this
is.
It was the 2 calls a day.
So it's a
guy.
roofer out of a suburb of Austin that's mad at all SEO firms. And guys, it's okay if you're angry at people.
Right.
What's not okay...
But if we haven't worked for you before, don't be angry at us.
Hey there guys, it's Nolen and Jason here with Roofing Webmasters. How's it going?
Howdy.
This is a true client story today. And you know, I don't even know, I didn't have a title for it. I don't know.
How not to talk to your SEO company?
No. Potential client rails Nolen for 34 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good title. I don't know. We can come up with one. But this is a true client story. Guy calls up, roofer and the outskirts of Austin. Okay. And I'd actually spoken to him before, and he asked me to call him back. And he was pretty, nice to talk to before, I guess. But he was upset with agencies, which is normal, and I'm kind of
we get that all the time.
Okay with this. This conversation I wasn't okay with at all, and it makes me question the meaning of life, or my life, not life itself, just my personal life, right?
Your choices.
Yeah, like this man burned 34 minutes and 30 seconds of my life. Is gone forever, and I'll never get it back. I might think about him. He might actually roll through my Rolodex of thoughts right before I pass over to the next. I could have used this time, sir. And I think I turned 47. Yeah, I turned 47 in a few days. Next week sometime, I turned 47.
He doesn't even know.
I'm just not telling anybody when my birthday. I don't want people to know. I don't like getting fake.
Even I don't know.
I don't like getting fake, birthday stuff from people from Facebook or companies, postcards, everybody on a Slack channel, Every Facebook reminds people that don't care, oh, happy birthday, 147 people wish you a happy birthday. That doesn't do it for me, I don't want people to know. Is that weird?
It's pretty weird.
Is it weird? I don't want people to know. I don't like fake birthday stuff. Anyway, so I'm talking to this guy, and I'm pushing 47 years old, and I'm questioning the meaning of my life, as I'm speaking to him. So what he starts to do is a much harder core version. And I've had this call before, I'm going to say on his level 100 times.
Yeah, easily.
Easily 100 times. Now I have this level of call literally on 80% of all calls that I ever talk to. And I'm going to describe some of this stuff. This may be a little bit of a lengthy one, but this guy is the 10% paid. I'm sorry, I'm going to 2 calls a day. So anyway.
Oh yeah, okay. I was trying to remember which guy
this is.
It was the 2 calls a day.
So it's a
guy.
roofer out of a suburb of Austin that's mad at all SEO firms. And guys, it's okay if you're angry at people.
Right.
What's not okay...
But if we haven't worked for you before, don't be angry at us.
Yeah, so I'm okay with hearing the stories, because
Right,
I've heard them a lot, and I've heard thousands of stories like this. It's just that he's in this 1 percentile or maybe 3 percentile of people to where the experiences for him, he was older, and he was on tilt to the point that he was ruined. Okay,
Yeah.
And I know he was on tilt to the point of ruination.
What did you say to me? You don't have enough years in your life to psychologically rehabilitate.
I didn't have enough
this man.
time, nor did I want to spend the time to psychologically rehabilitate this guy. And by the way, this guy says he listens to every single podcast.
Yeah, so he's going to know what we're talking about.
You know who you are, sir.
If you're one of those Texans who owns many guns, this was not my idea.
Yeah, you know who you are. But no, I'm not mad at him necessarily. I understand his situation, but I wasn't going to spend an hour arguing with him about the basis of the conversation. I did.
Right.
What was going on, by the way, just so you know, so we don't get too much further into this before you understand the nature of it, is that he was angry at all SEO firms, and he was transferring that anger to me and explaining it to me.
Right.
In an animated tone, but not like dropping the F-bomb directly on me, right? So
That's the
I would have hung up.
That's the dividing line for Nolen. You drop the F-bomb on him.
Not directly
not
on me.
Use the word, but drop it on him.
Yeah, you could drop
like
the F-bomb.
F you, Nolen. That's it. You're done.
You could drop it on other people.
Fine.
No, at a certain point, it does get this anger that's a little uncalled for.
Yeah.
If the F-bomb is being dropped at too many other people that are all kind of in a crowd that I might hang with.
He got a call from somebody in New York once, and he was just beside himself because it was F this, F that. And I was like, my wife's from New York, so it's kind of like, yeah, that's just how they talk, man. It's no big deal.
I'm okay with it to a certain point. I mean, one guy had talked to me, and he said that someone had drawn. I'm not okay with it from a standpoint of how I live my life on a day-to-day for someone having like rapid F-bomb delivery, I'm not condoning that, but I'm also in business, and I'm not going to hang up on somebody because they use the F-bomb with other people. So this guy wasn't actually cussing at all. But this delivery of this transference of this anger to me just kept grinding. About 15 minutes into him explaining how I don't understand why people can't just do their job, I give them money and they fix stuff. If my account doesn't show up on Google, just do it, by God. Just do it. And I would try to say
we
something.
forgot to call Google this week and have you put on top.
Yeah, anyway, but yeah, so just do it and do your job right. I mean, how hard can it be? And as he's describing this situation, it's very, I don't know if it's demeaning or he's not giving proper respect to someone actually doing professional work.
Right.
And then I finally asked him, so he's going through things like, I just need to show up in ranking. So the town that he was in only shows in the physical town about 3,000 people, but it's in the suburbs of Austin, and that's because the landmass of what was the township was small, but there in reality was more like 20,000 people, and it is a booming suburb of Austin.
Right.
And so it's not a bad town on WikiFacts or Google Facts. It looks like it's too small, but it's actually not a bad town. And he had dozens and dozens, I'm not going to give the exact amount of reviews of the city he's in, but he had dozens of reviews. And the people that showed up in the 3-pack only had 0, 1, and 1 review.
Wow.
And when I looked at his...
We could have gotten him, yeah.
We probably would do very well for him, but as I told this gentleman, I wasn't going to promise him where he's going to show up.
Because nobody can.
I don't own Google, and even though we're far superior to the work that he has, I'm not going to promise it to him. He said,
Right.
well, you guys can't promise anything. I said, sir, life isn't that way.
If we owned Google, we would not be talking to you right now.
Business isn't a deal to where people guarantee you sign in blood, you call the devil up, and you make a little deal.
Right.
I guarantee you're going to get this much business, and we'll talk about the ridiculousness of his expectations and the amount of money he was spending.
Right.
As well. So, and if he's listening to this, hopefully he would not be so egotistical not to call the best company in the business back to have the work done and realize the error of his ways on it. I cannot guarantee someone. I do believe we're the best that's ever been. I do strongly believe that at this point
The
in
whole
time.
Bret Hart vibe.
Yeah, the what?
Bret Hart.
What is that?
He's a wrestler. He was a wrestler.
Best there is, best there was, best there ever will be.
Okay. Who would know that? Bret Hart.
All wrestling fans know who
All
Bret Hart is.
Montreal Screwjob. Come on, people.
I was a wrestling fan, but I don't remember every little.
Bret the Hitman Hart.
Okay.
Came
I
out in
remember.
pink and black tights.
Okay. Pink and
Had the mirror shade.
I remember that. Okay, yeah.
That he would take
I
and give
remember
to a
that.
kid as he got.
I remember that.
Okay,
All right.
there you go.
But I remember Von Erichs and stuff, and I don't remember all of your references. So, yeah.
Well, you weren't as into it as I
Yeah.
was.
But anyway, so we're going through this stuff, and I forgot where I was with it. He's explaining to me all the things that he needs done and all those things that haven't been done. On his
Right.
website, he didn't even optimize for his little town, and he was clearly dominant. But on the homepage of his website, it optimized for Central Texas instead of this town.
Instead of the town, he was trying
So
to
it was a
go
very
too big.
basic deal. So what the guy had, guys, is what everybody has. And by the way, please call me. I want to talk with you. Even if you're angry, I want to talk with you.
Right.
There's just a certain point in time where I value myself more than you railing me. You know? So there is a point in time in there to where, and I wasn't never not nice to this guy. I did at the end of the conversation tell him, he said, well, call me back in 30 days. And I laughed. I was like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
It's like he'd already had you do that once before.
Well, I'd already done that once before.
Yeah.
And I said, look, we're a great company. I can't help you past all the emotional baggage that you got here, but I'd love to be a sir. But we're not fancy pants. I'm not a big shot. We would humbly have your business and say, thank you, sir, but I won't be calling you back in 30 days because that's not what I'm here to do.
Well, you don't want to have this call every 30 days for the rest of your day.
Well, to him, and about 14 or 15 minutes into it, I did, and it was 34 minutes, 30 seconds and change. I forgot the exact time because I remembered to look it up for this podcast, for this true client story for Roofer, and say, you know, how about that for a title? 34 minutes and 33 seconds of hell for Nolen. Yeah. 34 minutes and 34 seconds of Roofer story hell for Nolen.
There you
Something
go.
like that. But it's not my fault that this stuff happened. About 14 or 15 minutes into it, I said, and let's just call I call everybody Bob for this. No offense to the Bobs of the world, but I said, Bob, do you really want to rail the owner of this company for this entire call? Because
For stuff we didn't do.
you're sitting here talking to me, and you might be, because he's actually talking over. I talk over too, so I don't actually get mad at that when people talk over, because I talk over people to get a point across too, just like this.
Y'all might have noticed that in these podcasts.
One of y'all did notice it and called and laughed at me,
Said you should let Jason talk more.
and it was really funny.
Correct.
It was really funny. The guy had a mission to stop head trauma in children in sports.
Yeah.
If you're watching, sir, I thoroughly enjoyed your conversation. And you bragging at me for talking over Jason. But anyway, so this guy's doing this to me because he's passionate and wants to get his point across.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I think I do. You know, of course, part of it's just some social disorders that I have, but part of it's that you want to be passionate and get your point across. So he's doing this to me. I said, sir, do you really want to just rail me the whole time you have me on the phone? Because I'm kind of a resource here to be talking to. You know, if I do say so myself, I'm a good guy to talk to on the phone.
Yeah,
You
at this point, it's no longer a productive conversation.
And he said, well, I'm not doing that. I said, well, of course you're doing that, you know. I said, and it's kind of okay when you're talking to salespeople for other companies, but I'm one of two owners for the company, and you could have a productive dialogue with me, you know. And he said, well, and finally he stopped talking. And he's like, well, what are you going to do different? And I'm like, I already told you, and I don't know where to start with you because you're so angry and in such a different place than most people are. Most people have been screwed, but not to the point. He said, well, what am I supposed to do? And I said, well, you could give up and quit. That's what you could do. I said,
Your best option is to roll over and
could
die.
roll over, give up, and you could quit. Because that's basically where you've painted yourself into here.
Yeah, mentally.
Mentally, you don't trust anybody. You don't trust me. I can't guarantee you, because I don't own Google. I can only tell you what we will do, and you don't know enough to decipher this information, right? To tell. I said, I told you we were month to month, could cancel at any time. $99 starts you up, and if you don't like what we do, you could not go forward.
Right.
And I mean, my God, you can't get much easier than that. He said, but everybody says this stuff. I said, they do. I said, and you still have a basic template website that never gets worked on. I said, I'm going to ask you a question. So how much do you spend on it? I already told you our prices. How much do you spend? He said, I spend $500. And I'm like, okay.
Partial credit. Because it's not 300.
Partial credit, because it wasn't 300. And the stuff that we offered him was literally dollars over that for something professional.
Right.
Very close. But just because you spend some money doesn't mean that you're going to get. I can guarantee you that if you spend no money at all, which would be $500 or less, You can, and I don't care, what you say or how you feel about it. It is bull crap for you to expect skilled human beings in 2019-20 here with full unemployment that are sitting in an
Full
office.
employment, not full unemployment.
I'm sorry.
Nobody.
Full employment for you to expect them to just blow all this greatness on your way and just be like,
For $500.
by God.
Yeah.
And so this guy's like, all I want is 2 calls a day. And I'm like, okay, I just need 2 good calls a day. And I hear this all the time out of roofers.
Right.
And it's like, okay, let me do the math on my head roll. Let's do the math, Jason, on this, okay? And remember, do you remember what the normal amount that a business should spend over gross on marketing that basics of business schools, not that I even graduated, I have like 3 years of college. I'm not touting to be some business mastery class guy here, but people know a percentage of gross that they're supposed to spend of their income.
What is it, Nolan?
Well, it's arguably 10% for an easy number,
Right.
but you could argue anywhere between.
That's a minimum.
That's
that's your
well,
base.
No, you could argue as low as like 6 to 8 to 10, right?
Okay, maybe, yeah.
I think that,
Depending on how well established the business is. And,
honestly, if I had to say this like 10 or 20 years ago, people used to say like 8% or 7%.
Right.
Nowadays, they say 10.
Right.
And I honestly think that some of that could be self-serving on marketing companies and that we control the propaganda.
Make it
online.
20.
Well, some people do say that now.
Yeah.
But I think that's ridiculous. So if he got 2 calls a day, and we didn't go over all this because I was kind of spent and done at this point.
You were done.
Yeah. I was tired of getting railed on. And go rail on people, guys. Just, come on. Don't rail on my 47-year-old ass, for 34 minutes and 34 seconds.
34.
34.
I'm putting that on a T-shirt for you.
34
34.34.
Yeah, it's like my biblical verse on there or something.
Nolen 34.
Nolen 34. Yeah, but I'm a good guy to talk to on the phone, and I don't mind hearing these stories. I understand where they come from. But anyway, so he wants 2 calls a day, and let's just say for grins that it's only 5 days a week. He's a reasonable man, right? A reasonable man. Well, no, he's not reasonable at all because he's in the middle of the most booming economy in the nation, right?
Right.
With roofers everywhere in each
In
job.
an extremely hot market.
And let's be and he has nobody working there, so when he makes the money, let's be very low and say he makes $3,000 a pop.
Yeah.
He gets 2
That's
great
low end, too.
Gets 2 great calls. It is, but it's Texas. You're doing shingle roofs,
Yeah.
okay? $12,000
But in
roofs.
that area, there's probably some big houses, so they're probably
Yeah, but
even
for the
more.
purpose of this conversation, he's got a.
Will be reasonable.
Will be reasonable. He's
We'll
gonna
cut him some slack.
We'll cut him some slack. He's gonna get 2 jobs that are great calls. That's what he wanted. He's gonna sell one. And this was, let's say it was 7 days a week. Whatever. He sells 5 of these a week. All right. He gets 20 of them in a week. That's all he wants. He's not unreasonable. Is he unreasonable?
Well,
What's 20 times 3,000? Is that $60,000?
It is $60,000
Is that
a week.
$60,000?
Also known as $3 million a year.
$3 million. No, it's not. It's
No.
720,000.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My brain just
Your brain
farted
farted
right
out
there.
on that. Yeah,
Way
that's,
bad.
That's okay.
Pardon me.
It's 720.
I'm not a math guy.
It's 720, but Jason, hey, he might not do that all year long. Okay, so let's cut him some more slack there. He's only going to do that 8 months out of the year, so it's $480,000.
Poor little baby.
It's 480. It's roughly $500,000.
Yeah.
Let's just call it $500,000. He does it for 8.5 months. There's a little bit of stuff. It's Texas. He's doing a little bit during the winter time.
Right.
And he shut down, for 2 or 3 months clean, pretty much, right? And he makes $500,000. He pays those damn dirty, stinking, filthy, lazy web geeks, because that's how he feels about them.
Right.
That's exactly how he feels about them. He
I thought you
pays-
were going to say laborers, and I'm like, we're going to have to bleep
No.
the shit out of it.
No. There are certain classes and types of people you can still rag on,
Us!
and nobody can
Web geeks.
mess with you.
Nobody's going to mess with you.
And nobody's going to get you in any sort of legal trouble. So he's got these, and I'm not talking about me saying it. I'm saying this is what his mentality is.
Yeah.
He hates these dirty, web geeks, they're lazy, they're stinking, they're liars.
Yeah.
They're lying to him. They're taking his $500 and it will not make him a super rock star roofer. You know, I want my hot wife, my big ass house on Lake Travis, and my wakeboard, and you dumb, dirty web geeks will do it for $500 a week.
Is he the one?
A month, I'm sorry.
I thought he was the one that had his boat wrapped, but that was someone else.
No, that's a different story. So, you know, I want to make sure I got all this. This guy talked and complained to me and did not listen to anything, did not care to listen, and wasn't going to do anything. It was I thought it was 40 minutes. It was 34 minutes and change. And then he wanted me to call back in 30 days and go over it all again. I'd already explained what was wrong with the site. And it was just part of it, really.
Yeah.
I mean, really, guys, what's wrong with these sites is what isn't wrong with them. They're basic templates. They have horrible schema code or none. They never get worked on. They have no content. And then everything that you do to them gets slapped on aftermarket and looks like vomit on it. And Google can't tell what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Google looks at the site and it's vaguely about roofing, but we don't know what the point of it is, so they ignore it.
And you have to pay somebody like us, and you don't know exactly what we do. Who cares?
When you get up on a roof, I don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, who cares that you don't know exactly what we do? Now, I understand the frustration of it, that you've been screwed many times before, but I will say you this. When you disrespect professional services on a high level, and from a psychological standpoint, you guys have all heard this before, you cannot have that which you hate, right? You hate all rich people, you never become rich. You hate all web geeks, it can be hard to find one.
A good one.
Be hard to find a good one. The one that was the best one didn't feel like being called back to get demoralized.
Again,
and
for the third time.
Raked on again. And so the one that was there, now who's going to talk to him and eat his huge shovelfuls of crap into their mouth and just, open up! Here it comes!
Bag up the truck.
You want my business? I only accept people who eat my huge shovelfuls of crap. So I think he's going to have a hard time picking up somebody that's high
Well,
quality.
his next destination is just a salesman.
It is.
Who is gonna hold the phone like this and wait for
And
him to
accept
get done
all of
yelling
that,
him,
yeah.
and then be real slick with him and sign him up, and he's going to be still in the same boat he is now.
Absolutely, guys. That's what's going to happen to him. It's absolutely what's going to happen. I am absolutely not rude to any client ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I will call somebody out when I've gotten my fill of crap from somebody or someone's just making...
What I've seen you do is if you have that client like this guy who says the one more meeting, one more phone call, when there's already been multiples, and if they came back with a new question, it might be one thing. But when it's the same song,
it started over again. Yeah,
when it's you're starting over with it, like we had guys.
It's like
we had some guys come in the office one time, and we had them in the office. They came to our office for 2 meetings, and we had effectively the same meeting twice, almost identical.
We did, and then that's when I lost it.
They asked us to do a third one. It was like, okay, guys, we have told you everything.
That was a totally different deal, though. They were playing us.
Yeah, they were. But that was part of the frustration, was knowing
that was a sales ploy of playing us.
That it was the same thing of we're going to answer all the same questions and say all the same stuff. And at a certain point, it's like, we've said our bit. It's time for you to make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
That might sound a little cocky or anything.
It's not entirely. It is true if it's of a negative standpoint of somebody like this. But I don't mind answering the same questions over and over again and re-explaining it to different people. I'm actually quite happy to do that.
Yeah.
It's when this guy was coming from this dark place and this negative place, and he was transferring it to me, and he's doing it over and over and over again. That's where I had trouble with it.
His current people that he's paying $500 a month to, he probably couldn't get them on the phone anymore.
Well,
and so you were having to soak up all the vitriol he wanted to throw.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because just because you're able to get the owner of the company on the phone doesn't mean it's just not right. What he was doing was not right. Because since he hasn't been able to really fully vent all of his frustrations directly on the people that he would have liked to have yelled at all these other companies ever had, He decides to do it on me. And then when I called him on it, he was so oblivious that he was doing it. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, you're railing nonstop in a pretty irritated manner about the industry to me when you're talking to one of the top people in the industry directly, you know? And I was like, what's the purpose of it in your head? I really wanted to understand, like, why are you doing that? You know, he's like, well, I'm just so frustrated and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I've heard that. Like, you know, I think we've heard it. I mean, this one conversation, I heard it like 70 different ways.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. At a certain point, instead of just saying what you're frustrated about, you have to say what you're expecting and what you want, and we can try to tell you how we can try to get you there.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I'll say this about it. If this is every guy somewhere, this guy had gotten too old and too pissed, and he was screwing himself at this point.
Right.
He was close to, I mean, it's actually getting close to the end of his business career.
Yeah.
I don't care how old he was. He was a little bit, I could tell he's a little bit older. He might have been a little bit older than me, but he was close. He was nearing the end of his business career, the end of his highly productive business career. If for no other, he could have been 28 years old and nearing the end of it because he was cutting himself off from change.
Yeah. And by the way, in case anyone thinks we're bagging on older people, we are older people, number one.
Well,
But
I'm
number
more
two,
conscious of it.
We've had young guys like in their 20s with the same attitude who we said that guy's not going to make it. And we've had guys much older who've come in and said, guys, I don't know this internet stuff. I've done my business with door knocking, but that's not how it's done anymore. I need your help. And we've given them that help, and they've taken off, and they call back and say, you guys saved my business. Thank you so much.
Yep. Well,
Not that they paid us anymore.
I will say this, and no, we're not bagging on people. I think about it more because we're not too old, and I don't want to psychologically tell myself that much. You know, having said that, we are older at this point.
I'm older than him.
But Jason and I are extreme experts in our fields at this point with what we prospectively do because we constantly do change, you know, and there's actually a lot of, you know, there's a lot of power in getting older and being the only guy that changes, you know, because we get to use all our past experience and the other ones, and we're a force to be reckoned with if you do that properly. We are. I mean, we are.
No, we are.
We are. And but this guy was exhibiting all the wrong traits of what to do as you age.
I mean, and we get it. We get the frustration.
Yeah.
But the frustration doesn't move anything forward.
Didn't help either party on the phone.
Yeah.
I didn't learn anything. He didn't learn anything. Neither party had anything beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, he might have felt a little bit better yelling at you for a little while,
He
but
might have.
ultimately it's not going to help his business, and it cut him off from someone. It put up a wall that prevented him from getting help from someone.
We
who
would
could
still
have
help
helped
him.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to call and apologize or do anything. He doesn't have to say a word that he even listened to this podcast.
Right. It's probably better if we just don't.
But I would say, and actually I've had people leave and come back before. And you know what I've told them? I tell every single person, thank you so much for becoming a client. I really appreciate your business. And I've had people leave that came back. Most men are too egotistical to come back if it was good, if it was a good service.
Right.
But I've had a few guys come back here and there and say, gosh, y'all really were a great service. I didn't realize until I came back. And I said, you know what? We're humble to have you, and we're grateful. I'm so thankful that you came back.
Right.
We're all thankful that you came back, and we actually all are. It's like,
Yeah, we're all, when we get a returning
It's a
client,
huge compliment.
we're always thrilled.
and it's a compliment in the most fundamental, great way, not in us being egotistical about it.
Right,
We're all
right.
just very thankful. So yeah, the guy could call up here and we'd be thankful. But it is too bad. These conversations, I'd say about 1 out of 20 people are in this condition that call.
Yeah.
And usually the conversation, but they usually won't just keep going. I do think he had some interest in that he was talking to the owner and he was going to get back at, you know, everybody.
All of those
Right.
web geeks.
And
yeah.
and it actually had an opposite effect of what he wanted and no help at all.
Right.
It actually probably just ingrained his position into himself and hurt himself. And he actually was talking to someone skilled and had never, well, we were in we have a price range that is unbelievably great for high-end stuff. that he would have fit perfectly into.
Right. Yeah.
The reason he'll never talk to anybody good again is because we're the only ones that have that.
Yeah.
We're the best in this field.
We're the only ones at that price range who can actually deliver.
Yes, and he won't ever go to that other price range where people get close to what we do.
Right.
He will never do it. So that he'll never get that service that he wanted, most likely. And most likely he'll just compound this type of thought process. But anyway, gosh, it doesn't have to be that way. You can get upset. It's okay to get upset. It's okay. I think getting
It's okay to be upset. It's okay to talk to us.
I think to get angry and upset is a good point of change sometimes, as long as you realize what the hell's going on with you.
Right.
You know?
As long as you realize we're not the ones that did it to you.
Yeah, and you're not just reacting out of anger and it just stays there. If you get angry and you want to make things better, it doesn't require this level of anger and angst. It just is like, gosh, tired of getting messed around. What's causing this? I'm paying this amount of money. These other people want this much, or I keep doing this or picking this or doing that, you know? Right. What's different about other websites that are in top ranking and mine? Because I have people ask me, you know, well, what is wrong with my website? And I'll tell them, and it just kind of, I can feel that it just kind of floats into their head. It's not like they don't understand it, but it doesn't mean anything to them.
Right.
I was like, look, Bob, I said, I have a way, an exercise to do this. Why don't you look up on, why don't you look at the other people that are dominant in your market and really try to take an objective look of what's different about your website and their website. So
don't just look at the home page and look at the basics of how pretty the design is. Really dig in.
Look at the content and their reviews and their Google account and their post and their social media and blogging. Does it look different, you know?
Right.
Is it different than yours? Does it look like they've been doing it for longer? Is it go look for yourself? And you can tell. I could go on to all of that stuff, but I wanted to talk about this guy. So, hey, you know what? We're at 32 minutes and 27 seconds.
Should we bullshit for two more minutes to make it be the exact
same amount? This has
been
a cathartic experience for me. I feel like I can let it go now to the universe. Sir, I will let this angst go.
We are shoveling this crap right back out.
Oh my God. I will tell you guys, if you're still listening to this, I've talked a lot about whether we should do true client stories like this. And some of them I felt like were negative. But Jason, people seem to like my homespun, off the cuff.
I actually think people just like seeing you get beat up.
Do they? Maybe.
People just like, oh, let's go watch Nolen get angry again.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think I'm a normal guy, and I don't have this ass clown behavior bull, you know, like some of our competition. Like everybody out there, man. They're all full of lies and new age bull talk, and I mean, I don't know. It's bull crap.
This is from the guy who was just saying, I'm letting it go to the universe.
Well, as much as I can. I have a base level of anger that just stays there all the time.
Just simmering all the time.
It's really thick and I can't shovel it out. It's just, even got a new chiropractor that said, gosh, you really hide your anger well. Because I'm really mellow acting, but I've got all this angst. He can feel the tension spots.
You feel all the knots up in you.
Well, he said there's different knots depending on whether it's anxiousness or depression or like anger. He said I specifically have anger.
You have angry back.
Oh my God. All right. I honestly do feel better. And it is 34 minutes. Now he'd have to cut some of the initial stuff, but I think, you know, it may not be 34 minutes by the time it hits video,
but we tried.
By God, 34 minutes and 34 seconds now. Thanks, guys. On that note, we'll see you, man. Give me a call. I'd like to talk to you. I'm so easy to talk to, man. I promise.